What if everything you've been told about attraction is incomplete? What if the reason some men effortlessly draw women in, without chasing, without begging, isn't luck, looks, or money, but something far more strategic? Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video, because what you're about to hear could genuinely change your love life. And don't skip ahead, watch till the end, because the final insight ties everything together in a way most people never realize. Now imagine this. A man walks into a room. He's not the loudest, not the richest, not even the most traditionally handsome. But somehow, attention bends toward him. Conversations orbit him. And without trying too hard, he becomes the center of interest. Why? This is where what many call Machiavellian thinking comes in, not in a dark, manipulative sense, but in understanding human nature at a deeper, more strategic level. Let's call this the experiment. A mindset shift, a way of observing what actually works in attraction instead of what sounds nice. The experiment begins with a simple question. Do people fall in love with comfort or with emotional intensity? Most men are taught to be nice, agreeable, available, to respond quickly, to always reassure, to remove tension. But here's what the experiment reveals. Attraction doesn't grow in certainty. It grows in curiosity. Think about the last time you couldn't stop thinking about someone. It wasn't because they were predictable. It wasn't because they were always there. It was because they made you feel something, and then left space for you to wonder. The man in this experiment doesn't chase validation. He doesn't try to prove himself constantly. Instead, he creates a subtle emotional rhythm, presence, then absence, warmth, then distance, not to confuse, but to create intrigue. Because the truth is, when everything is given freely, the mind stops valuing it. Now picture another moment, a conversation between two people. One is trying hard, laughing too much, agreeing too quickly, revealing everything at once. The other, calm, observant, slightly mysterious. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He lets it exist. And in that silence, tension is born. That tension is what pulls attention deeper. Here's where most people misunderstand. They think attraction is about saying the perfect thing, but in reality, it's about what you don't say. The pauses, the restraint, the controlled unpredictability. The experiment shows that when a man reveals everything too soon, he removes the very thing that fuels attraction, discovery. Now let's go deeper. There's a principle here. People are drawn to what feels slightly out of reach. Not impossible, not cold, just not fully available. This doesn't mean ignoring or playing games. It means having your own center, your own direction, your own life that doesn't revolve around seeking approval. When a man becomes too focused on winning someone over, he unknowingly lowers his perceived value. But when he's focused on his purpose, his growth, his path, something shifts. He's no longer asking, "Do you like me?" He's silently communicating, "This is who I am. Take it or leave it." And that is powerful, because confidence isn't loud, it's grounded. Now imagine this scenario. Two men text the same woman. The first replies instantly every time. Long messages, always available. The second, he responds when he chooses. His messages are clear, but not overwhelming. He doesn't overinvest too early. Who creates more anticipation? The experiment shows it's the one who leaves room for imagination, because attraction thrives in emotional gaps. When there's space, the mind fills it. When everything is constant, the mind relaxes, and interest fades. Now here's where things become even more interesting. Attraction isn't just about behavior, it's about perception. If a man sees himself as someone trying to impress, he behaves differently than a man who sees himself as someone being evaluated. The first seeks approval, the second holds standards, and people are naturally drawn to those who have standards. Why? Because it signals self-worth. Now let's shift the perspective. Think about mystery. Why do people love stories with twists? Why are they drawn to characters they can't fully predict? Because uncertainty keeps the brain engaged. The same applies to attraction. The man in this experiment doesn't try to be confusing, but he doesn't try to be completely transparent either. He reveals himself, layer by layer, and each layer invites curiosity. Now here's something most won't tell you. Being too emotionally available too early can actually reduce attraction. Not because emotion is bad, but because timing matters. When emotional depth comes after intrigue, it feels meaningful. When it comes before, it feels overwhelming. So the experiment suggests a sequence. First, spark curiosity, then build tension, then reveal depth, not all at once. Now imagine this. A woman meets a man who doesn't immediately compliment her appearance. Instead, he notices something subtle, her perspective, her energy, her way of thinking. That kind of attention feels rare because it's not surface level, and rarity increases value. Here's another layer. Most people try to be liked, but the man in this experiment is willing to be misunderstood. Not rude, not arrogant, but unapologetically himself. And that creates polarity. Some people won't like him, but the ones who do feel it strongly. Because attraction isn't about appealing to everyone. It's about deeply resonating with the right ones. Now let's talk about emotional control. When something goes wrong, when messages aren't replied to, when plans change, most people react. They chase, they overthink, they seek reassurance. But the man in this experiment, he remains composed. Not because he doesn't care, but because he values his peace more than temporary validation. And that emotional stability becomes attractive in itself, because it signals strength. Now here's the deeper truth. Attraction isn't built through effort alone. It's built through perception, timing, and emotional impact. You can say all the right things, but if there's no tension, no curiosity, no space, it won't stick. So what does the experiment ultimately show? That attraction is less about doing more and more about doing the right things at the right time. It's about restraint. It's about understanding that not everything needs to be said, shown, or given immediately. It's about allowing connection to unfold instead of forcing it. Now think about your own experiences, the moments that stayed with you, the people you couldn't forget. They weren't the ones who gave everything instantly. They were the ones who made you feel something and left you wanting to understand more. That's the core of this idea, not manipulation, not control, but awareness. Awareness of how human emotion works, awareness of how attraction grows, and awareness that sometimes the most powerful move is holding back just enough. So as you move forward, remember this. Don't try to become someone else. Don't try to follow scripts blindly. Instead, understand the principles. Curiosity over certainty, presence over neediness, mystery over overexposure, and most importantly, self-respect over approval. Because when you truly value yourself, you stop chasing attention and start attracting it naturally, and that's when everything changes. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,